Welcome to the Mindset Chick podcast. If you are looking to stop settling and want to gain the clarity and confidence to manifest the life and biz of your dreams, then this show is for you. I'm your host, Christy Deer, sharing with you simple yet powerful and effective mindset tips that will allow you to attract more abundance, prosperity, and success into your life. So get ready, get excited, and let's go manifest some amazing things together. Welcome back to the Mindset Chick podcast. I am so happy to have you here. And today I've invited Stasia Bliss back on to dive deeper into the topic of anger and frustration. We're going to really dive into more of the how-tos and also talk about how to, deal with that in relationships and use anger as a guide, as fuel, as a tool to allow you, support you to manifest more of your dreams and your goals, and really allowing you to live a more happier, more blissful life instead of getting frustrated when anger arises and feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm in this relationship. I shouldn't get so angry. I shouldn't get so upset. We shouldn't fight so much. To understand why the anger is coming up and what it's teaching you and how to move through it and how to work through it in a relationship in a healthy way. So Stasia Bliss is a life force management educator, healer, empowerment coach, oracle, and conscious mental health practitioner who specializes in relationship work. She sees all relationships as a beginning with her inner relationship we have with the self, and which then reflects in our intimate relationships with our children, family, and friends, and extends out into your relationships with our communities, the collective of humanity, the earth, and finally, our relationship with Source. Her experience in assisting with understanding and integrating an expansion of life force energy and how that can improve our personal lives and relationships spans over 20 years. Stasia brings her studies, travels, wisdom, and insights to you in order to support the self-realization journey of you and your families, as well as an ascension and evolution for humanity at large. She is a multi-time published author and speaker on various platforms. You can find her online courses, books, videos, articles, podcasts, and book sessions with her through her website, blissandthehouse.com. So Stasia, it's so great to have you back on.
Thank you, Christy. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So after we recorded the last podcast, we were talking and we thought, you know what? There's so much more that we wanted to share about anger and how allowing anger to guide you and be your friend and, really dive into it even more and talk more about the how to. And so we decided to do a part 2.
I know. I'm so excited. I kind of left there going, maybe there's a lot more to say.
Yeah, I know. We could have talked for like an hour.
Right. Yeah. And it's really important that people are able to put it into practice easier. So I think this is great. Thank you for having me back on to talk more.
Absolutely. So diving back into it deeper. So let's say you're in an intimate relationship and anger keeps coming up. It keeps arising. How can you use this to deepen the love?
I love this question. So I think I want to start by framing it with the way that we perceive what relationships are supposed to be for. I think there needs to be just a little bit of tweaking on that. We kind of just come from a tradition of, I think we're not really thinking about this person is here to make me happy, or they're here to fulfill my dreams, or we have these expectations about this relationships. This person's loving me forever. And so we get disappointed when it doesn't always look like I'm being loved, I'm being supported, I'm being cared for. And so the paradigm shift I think that's necessary is to realize that every relationship is an alchemical relationship. That's what I call it, an alchemical relationship. Mm-hmm. And if you think about the word alchemy, traditionally it means turning lead into gold. So an alchemist could take base metal, something heavy, lead, not very worthy, not very much value worth, and transform it through an alchemical process into gold. Now, this is like a mysterious process. Like a lot of people wonder, is that really gold? Is it an internal thing? But the point of it is it's a transformation from something lower, something more dense, I could say like lower vibration, into something higher. And so I feel like this is what relationships' true purpose is, and that it actually happens when we get into any relationship. There is immediately an alchemical reaction. And alchemy, different than chemistry is just physical reactions. If someone gets mad, you get mad, like there's an explosion, that's chemistry. But alchemy has a spiritual component to it. So there are the two people that are coming into play and, acting their acts, which of course, all those things are coming from childhood, programming or constructs or beliefs. So we're all coming to a relationship with a construct, and we're bumping up against another human's psychology, basically. And with that, there is a spiritual component. There is an overlapping. You could look at it as the Vesica Pisces, where our energy fields overlap. There is something that goes on there that creates some sort of a change. And I believe it's meant to draw out impurities. Like that's actually the nature of relationship. That's where the alchemy comes in. Does that follow so far?
Yeah, I have never heard that before, the alchemical.
So then when someone makes you angry or ignites something in you, that actually is a clue that the alchemy is working. It's a natural response to the alchemy. Just like in chemistry, you would expect certain chemicals to explode. In alchemy, you would expect effects. You would expect something that wants to initiate a purification, wants to initiate some sort of an upgrade, right? So when anger happens, our first response is, this is bad, right? This doesn't feel good. I don't like it. Like, make it stop. But what we don't understand is usually, and I think we actually do understand this, we just don't think about it, is change isn't easy. Like change doesn't always feel good. When you want something to change, you usually have to do something that's a little bit uncomfortable. If something's going on in your body and you need a surgery, like that's not comfortable. If you want to move, you have to pack up your stuff and you have to say goodbye and you have to do something uncomfortable, right? Yeah. So relationships are catalysts for change. I don't think that anyone gets into a relationship really super consciously thinking about that, but I think we all want to grow as people, right? We're not thinking, I'm going to get in this relationship and we're going to stay the same forever. No one's ever going to change, right?
Or maybe, go ahead.
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
I was thinking maybe people are like, they don't realize it, right? That they need to change.
But, we're constantly aging, like we're growing up. Like it would be a little strange if you just stayed exactly the same when you met someone as like 10 years later, although I have been in relationships where, the person gets mad, like, hey, you're not the person that I got together with. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm growing too. I'm changing too. And so I think this is something that we could all use like an education on, or just, get a different perspective. Like, what is the purpose of relationship? We can look at the purpose, because if our purpose is just for someone else to make us happy and for us to be in, marital bliss all the time, then anger doesn't seem to make any sense and we don't like it and we throw it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in the idea that we're growing, changing humans who are hopefully evolving, especially on a spiritual journey, we're wanting to become better. We're wanting to be our most authentic self, live our truth, like learn, grow, and master ourselves. Ultimately, that's what I think my goal is to self-mastery. And, whether that happens in one life or multiple lives, I think it's a goal of someone who's trying to be more spiritual. But so in that context, and I have to say that because if someone's not willing to look at the relationship that way, then maybe this advice won't help. But in that context, anger does push us to change, to like notice that something is unsynchronistic or something's off, something's stuck. There's, like we're getting triggered. So there's something there. I look at it like there's a shadow element. There's an unseen treasure there. And so if we can use that rubbing up against that anger feels like and recognize this is the alchemy at play, then we can become curious and like see how a change is wanting to happen there.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. I think that a lot of things that happen in our life, I'd kind of like to explain it like that movie Groundhog's Day.
Uh-huh.
What is that actor's name? Is it?
Yeah, Bill Murray.
Yeah, Bill Murray. He is so funny. But I think that is actually like a representation of a lot of things that happen in our life. Like we will repeat the same thing over and over and over until we learn from it. So like in that movie, he doesn't get out of repeating the day over and over and over and over and over until he learns how to, handle those situations different, until he works
totally
on himself.
Until he matures, till he gets growth points. He's conscious of what he's doing. Yeah.
So
he's
a lot
not
of
acting off unconscious patterns anymore.
Exactly. And, a lot of people just think that maybe they blame the situation. They blame the person. Well, I'm going to get out of this relationship because it doesn't feel good. Then they get into another one and they have the same things coming up. I mean, maybe it's a little different, that the fights, arguments are a little different, but they are experiencing, the same thing until they learn how to work on themselves, how to maybe
for sure
communicate differently, how to work through what's going on within them before they can really attract the relationships that they
right. And my main alchemy teacher, Almeen, she taught that all relationship is self-relationship. And I actually really resonate with that. It's like we attract someone that's at our same level of consciousness. We are attracting something the same because we do want to grow. And the only way to grow through it is to have it mirrored back to us in a way that it's visible to us. So when we see it and it angers us, it's actually an interesting point to be like, well, there's something here that bothers me about myself. Like, where do I do this thing? Like, where am I the culprit here? And to really take self-responsibility can be a challenge. But if we can, then those anger moments become the transformational molecules, I guess, to change you and to allow the relationship to transform. And even if that person isn't going to transform with you, so we sometimes attract people into our life who mirror a certain thing for us. And as soon as we get the lesson, that person actually vibrates away. And because they aren't going to mirror the change, they're just mirroring the thing we need to change. And then we up level and someone of our same frequency again vibrates in. So yeah.
That's really good to know. And a lot of people ask me, Alex and I, my husband, we have been together since I was 18 and he was 22.
That's amazing. Yeah. Congratulations. That's really, really awesome. Yeah.
So I was thinking about, I have to do the math in my head. I'm like, we got married in 99. So October 99. So that would be 23 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
This year. Yeah.
And there's a lot of alchemy you guys have been through.
Yes. And a lot of people ask me, goodness, how are you guys able to, be together so long? And, it's through changing together and evolving together. I think if one person wasn't able to look at themselves and grow or realize, like, how did I contribute to this argument? Or how did I contribute to the situation that doesn't feel good? Take ownership of it, work on yourself and, communicate. Then I don't think that we'd still be together. We really had to work, we grew up together, I feel like.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, we really had to both grow together and work through things together and be open to change.
Right. And it takes a courageous self-love too, I think, to stay with someone because you have to be willing to own your stuff. Like when it comes up, you have to know you're worthy and you have to own what is your part and then come back together, and really takes courageous self-love. So it's beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's not always easy to do, is to say like, what part did I have in this argument, or what part did I have? It's way easier to blame somebody else. Well, the economy is not in a great place, or I just lost my job and that's making me cranky and irritable. And so, I'm taking it out on you. But to look within and say, what part am I contributing, isn't always easy, but I believe it's so necessary because, like I just said, you could get out of that relationship and then go to another relationship and have the same type of situation.
Yes. Yeah. And truly you will, in just a slightly different form until you are able to get it. That's actually what I call the karmic wheel, like that repeating of lifetimes. We do that now in a single life. Like we can repeat the same pattern as if we're cycling lifetimes with that element until we're ready to step off the wheel. And that only comes through self-responsibility.
Yeah. So good. So with anger, what would you say, like if you're in an interaction, somebody and you're upset and you're angry, what does a healthy interaction look like?
Well, so first of all, again, both people kind of understanding that this is an alchemical process. So there comes a level of consciousness that both people kind of necessarily need to hold if you're going to play this right. I mean, some couples, one person can hold it really strong and it can still work, but it really helps if both people understand this, because when something is sparked, when there's an anger moment sparked, a healthy interaction would be the person that sees that, oh, this person just got angry, kind of steps into a space holding place. Like you recognize, oh, we need a container. Like we need a healthy container for this so that this doesn't hurt anybody. Like this is actually effective. And so it's almost like allowing yourself to become the witness of the anger. And like, I love the perspective that one of my friends and I came up with. We're doing a lot of this integration work together. And that is that a relationship is meant for self-realization. So to witness somebody else's awakening process is really like what we're engaged in. And we don't usually know it. Mm-hmm. And it can be happening slow or fast. But if someone gets angry, to get into that stance of, oh, wow, like here comes something new, like something new is about to come forth. There's the energy, there's the power to be in sort of a curious space holding place. And even with yourself, like if you feel yourself getting angry about something, you can also be the witness of your own anger. That's something that meditation and yoga has really helped me to do. Is it is possible to be in an extreme emotion while witnessing it at the same time. So part of your mind, right? So you're like, okay, I'm getting really mad right now. And instead of being like, I got to stop, I need to stop this and go away, you might just be like, okay, I'm getting angry. How can I hold space for myself right now to do this? And that brings a little like sort of space around it to where you can feel into what is the best way. Like sometimes the best way is to just let it out, like let what needs to be said out, feel the little bit of heartbreak or pain that's there. And if both people can witness that, it's almost like you're witnessing a wound showing itself right then. It's like the wound's opening and both people are like, okay, the wound's opening. Good job. There it is. And there's no shaming if that's happening and you're doing it in a healthy way. You're just literally like, wow, we finally got that wound out. And then it's like, what do we do with this wound now? And that's, one or both people are going to be responsible for like, do I just now the anger came out. Now I just give them a hug, like, like, good job. You did it, like holding space. Or does the anger come out and then you just both are like, okay. And you walk away. Or the person that's angry might go, wow, okay, I still have more of that. I'm going to go clean the house or whatever. Like there is a recognition that energy is now out and available. And then it can be a thoughtful action of what to do with it next.
Yeah. That's so good. And, like learning about your partner and, that book 5 love languages is really, like knowing their really love language. And so when I get really upset, what I like to do is I like to go, and walk off. And I like to count to 10 and I like to pray. I like to internally talk and say, okay, is this really something to get upset about? How can I communicate this, that I'm upset about this situation, to Alex? And what Alex loves to do is he wants to talk about it right then. Like if we're upset, if I'm upset, he wants like, what's going on? I want to talk about it right then. And I want to take some time. So like knowing your partner and being able to say, okay, like compromise, like, okay, it's not about like, I need to take a break. I need to calm down. And it's not, I'm not being rude to you by walking off. So him understanding how I deal with getting frustrated and I understanding how, what he's dealing with when he gets frustrated. Because when I walk off, he feels like I don't care. I'm walking off to have this internal dialogue to say, okay, is this something really to get upset about?
And you feel like you're caring, like to walk off.
Yes, I feel like I'm caring because I don't want to just explode. Like I need to get my thoughts together. And I like to really, really take a step back and pray and, just kind of assess the situation. So
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point, which is we're not all exactly the same. So we don't all exactly the same handle our anger or feel our anger. And some of that is definitely love languages. It's also your astrological signs, like someone who's more fiery in nature. Like I'm 5 fire signs. So when I feel it, I feel like a volcano erupting. And I just like, I have to do something with that, it makes sense. And if I know someone's going to invoke that, I have to be really careful around them. Where, someone who's earth or, water, they might internalize it and push it in themselves. They might want to wait. They might want to like brew it in their own cauldron. Air sign might be more apt to want to talk about it. So it is a really good thing to know what your partner is, what their dominant sign or what their love language is, something that will help you be the best person to hold space when they have anger.
Yeah. And when you communicate, one thing that I read a lot about this, I love reading, but also your language, how you communicate. So if you come up to somebody and say, you know what, you did this and I don't like it, but watch your language, because a lot of verbiage can put somebody on the defensive.
Sure.
And another thing for women, sometimes what we do with our male partner is they might be watching TV. We think they're just watching TV. And then we just go in front of them while the TV's on and say, you know what? You didn't do the dishes, or you didn't clean the floor right, or you left this mess over there. But respecting, even if they're watching TV, respecting their time. And this has helped us a lot, where I've just come over and say, hey, I really need to chat with you. Do you have a minute? Or he'll say, oh, I'm finishing something, 10 minutes, I'll be in there.
Right. Or in that moment, you might write a little note that says, the dishes would totally love your care when you have the time, heart, or whatever, like you could share it in a sweeter way. Definitely.
Yeah. I usually start it with, I'm sure you didn't mean to do this, but I just feel like, I've asked you to do X, Y, Z and it hasn't gotten done yet. When do you think that you can finish this? And just trying to approach it differently with language, because language can, put somebody on the defensive. They'll hear like, you're not doing this, and they're not listening to anything you say. All they're doing is thinking about their comeback.
Well, and relationships are tricky because it's really easy to fall into expectation traps of what we're in a relationship, especially if you live together and it's long term. You expect that you have certain obligations or duties or so forth. But I also think it's really valuable in languaging. If you feel angry, especially, to sort of preface what you're going to say, you could say, I'm feeling really angry right now. I'm not putting it on you, but I'm feeling the energy. Like I'm feeling like myself inflamed. So what I'm going to say right now is like, has that energy behind it. And maybe you can help me work through this. So instead you're taking like personal responsibility in front of them, and you're actually asking for their help in your processing. And I find that really helps the partner be like, oh, wow, you're not putting this on me. Great. Like, they want to help you process it if that's the case. And even if it's like, well, I'm feeling like you don't do this, I'm feeling like you don't do that, then they can hear it from, okay, so you're feeling unsupported. I hear that you're not feeling supported. That's how you feel. Like, and have a conversation where it's a little bit more detached, because it's so hard when we go in and we're personal and we attack because we're feeling a certain way, to get beyond that, because that can just go into loops and spirals of blame and shame and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So prefacing like, hey, like I need some help processing this. I'm feeling this way and you're my partner. So I really need some help in how to deal with this. So please don't hold anything I'm saying against me. Just help me get through it, is a really nice way to remind, this is my process. This is an alchemical thing. The fire's there. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I love that. And in our world right now, there have been a lot of changes in the last couple of years. There's just, a lot of, I feel like, fear being put out and things that people are going through that maybe have caused fear, anger, frustration, and maybe they feel themselves taking it out on their loved ones or maybe a stranger. So it's a question I wanted to ask. How do we address anger about what is going on in the world and, use it to make the world a better place?
Well, I love now stretching this out, Christy. This is so important because not only are each of us individually going through our own awakening journey, our own, transformation journey, but as a collective, humanity is going through this right now. We're all going through a big awakening. We're seeing things we haven't seen before, and there's disappointment, there's disillusionment, there's anger, of course. And actually, These emotions are natural parts of the awakening. They're natural parts of like getting the wounds out and sort of bleeding it out, if you will, like feeling all the things that haven't been felt, the suppressed emotions, the untalked about things. This is what our relationships bring up in each other too. We bring up the stuff that's been pushed down so that it doesn't have to be there. It can be healed. And so if we can look at humanity right now as a large and realize, actually, this is a purification, this is a cleansing process that humanity has to go through, and it's not going to go on forever. This is a thing we have to feel together. We have to feel all the stuff that was stuffed down and secreted away and hidden and quiet. And that's actually a second chakra. If you know the chakra is a second chakra, purification is often called the dark night of the soul because there's so much like dark energy and anger can be there and old like lifetimes of wounds. And so if we can collectively realize that we're kind of in a dark night of the soul, which is part of the natural awakening process, and it is just a stage, then we can have a little bit more compassion for ourselves and for each other as we're going through this and just kind of breathe through it, hold each other's hands, find ways to support each other in getting through it so that we can get to the next phase, which is inevitable. I really don't believe this is going to go on forever. It's inevitable that the life force energy moves us through this phase into one of more empowerment, more creativity. That's the third chakra. That's moving beyond the third dimensional reality that we've had. That's been largely security, safety, and, sexuality-based society. Money and all of that has been a first and second chakra experience, if your listeners are familiar with that. But so we're moving beyond that. So to have compassion for this time and just know that we're all in this together.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, such great tips. So I know I asked you before what your favorite quote or mantra is. And what's another one, a favorite quote or mantra or something maybe that you could think of that people like thinking about anger or frustrated? What would you say?
So I'm going to answer that in two ways. I want to give an empowering answer, but I also want to give a reflective answer. So the first one would be, how is this me too? So if something in the world is making you angry, you can ask, how is this me too? To first of all, reflect that, hey, it's not just them, it's also me. When I look at the leaders that are in charge of the world right now, especially in this country, and I get like angry or frustrated, I have to say, where is this me too? Where am I not fully showing up in my full capacity as leader, as a loving, compassionate, caring steward of my own body and my own life? Where am I letting myself be puppeted or whatever? Like, where am I not fully showing up? Like, that's how I look at the leaders. And I have to ask myself, where is this me? And if we can answer that for ourselves and we can transform in those ways, I truly believe we will see our leaderships transform to reflect what we do within ourselves. So how is this me is one I always ask myself. And then just as a simply like empowering mantra, the sound Ra is actually a traditional like Egyptian sun god name, but actually is the Bija mantra or the sound mantra for the navel chakra, which is our empowerment center. And it actually means fire. It's like tuning into the inner fire. And it's helping us like charge our inner battery and our inner resources and burn through. In Sanskrit, they call it the Bhuta Agni, your spiritual fire, to burn through and find that place where you are strong in the light of who you are. So even just the word Ra, 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 Ra is a sound that activates that center and can help you really like channel that fire energy, burn through it, like alchemize it and empower you. And it's just the same as like tuning into your own inner sun, like the light of who you are. That's a powerful mantra that I use, and I use with my kids. If they're getting angry, I'm like, start doing the Ra sound with them.
Yeah, that's neat. I love that. That's great. Well, Stasia, thank you so much for coming on again. I loved our part 2. I mean, we could talk all day.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you. I'm so happy we got to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And I just hope it's helpful to your audience to move through this time that can sometimes be wrought with anger.
Yeah.
Have compassion for ourselves. Yeah.
I think it's very helpful because a lot of times it's not talked about as much. It's kind of like, suppress the anger, suppress the fear, like stay positive. Don't give that attention, but really diving into it and realizing that this is just a human emotion. And we're not going to shame it or feel guilty, but how can you move through it, in the right way, in a healthy way, and use it for good. So
yeah. And as we said last time, turn it into a fuel that actually energizes your experience in your life and, nourishes where you maybe needed a little motivation. So
yeah, true. Stasia, how can people find you and connect with you more?
Sure. Well, you can find me on my website, blissinthehouse.com. You can find me on YouTube and also on Facebook, just under Stasia Bliss. And right now you can also get onto some of my courses through the blissme.passion.io website, web link, which links you to my app. So
perfect. Yeah. Well, thanks again.
Thanks, Christy. Have a beautiful day.
You too. And remember, friend, to dream big, follow your heart, and never give up on you because you're worth it.
Thank you for joining me today on the Mindset Chick podcast. I hope this show has you waking up every morning excited about the new manifestations you have created in your life. And if you would honor me with a 5-star review over in iTunes, I will happily enter your name in my Mindset Chick swag giveaway. Make sure you add your name to the review and I will reach out to you if you're the winner. I really appreciate you spending your time with me. Be sure to visit me at mindsetchick.com for past episodes and more gifts that will help you to manifest your dreams into reality.